Take a moment to read the following. How was that? Frustrating? Slow? What were those sentences about? They're actually a simulation of the experience of dyslexia, designed to make you decode each word. Those with dyslexia experience that laborious pace every time they read. When most people think of dyslexia, they think of seeing letters and words backwards, like seeing B as D, or vice versa. Or they think people see saw as was. The truth is, people with dyslexia see things the same way as everyone else. Dyslexia is caused by a phonological processing problem in the brain, meaning people affected by it have a problem, not with seeing language, but with manipulating it. For example, if you heard the word cat and someone asked you, remove the C, what word would you have left? At. This can be very difficult for people with dyslexia. Given a word in isolation, like fantastic, students with dyslexia need to break the words into parts to read it. Fan, tas, tick. Time spent decoding makes it hard to keep up with peers and gain sufficient comprehension. Spelling words phonetically, like stick for stick, and friends for friends, is also common. These difficulties are more widespread and varied than commonly imagined. Dyslexia affects up to 1 in 5 people. It occurs on a continuum. One person might have mild dyslexia, while the next person has a profound case of it. Dyslexia also runs in families. It's common to see one family member who has trouble spelling, while another family member has severe difficulty decoding even one-syllable words, like catch. Here's the special way that brains of those with dyslexia work. The brain is divided into 2 hemispheres. The left hemisphere is responsible for language and ultimately reading, while the right typically handles special activities. fMRI studies have shown that the brains of those with dyslexia rely more on their right hemisphere and frontal lobe than the brains of those without it. This means when they read a word, it takes a longer trip through their brain and can get delayed in the frontal lobe. Because of this neurobiological glitch, they read with more difficulty. But those with this difficulty can physically change their brain and improve their reading with an intensive multisensory intervention that breaks the language down and teaches the reader to decode based on syllable types and spelling rules. The brains of those with dyslexia begin using the left hemisphere more efficiently while reading, and their reading improves. The intervention used in Richardson ISD is called Multisensory Teaching Approach, or MTA. Multisensory Teaching Approach, MTA, is a program for the remediation of dyslexia. The program is an Orton-Gillingham multisensory approach to teaching reading, handwriting, spelling, comprehension, and written expression. This program combines simultaneous visual, auditory, and kinesthetic instruction. In other words, students are listening, seeing, verbalizing, and using large muscle movements to learn new letters and concepts. This instruction is based on the alphabet symbol system and is thorough in teaching the phonetic structure of our language. The content moves from simple to complex and from the most dependable, reliable patterns in our language to the less dependable and reliable. The MTA curriculum ensures that students master the foundational concepts before moving on to newer and more complex learning. Students must achieve 90% accuracy on each skill taught before moving forward. The curriculum is divided into 7 kits, and it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to complete the program. The length of time needed for completion is completely based on individual student need. The program is designed to move students as quickly as they can, but as slowly as they must, to master the concepts and become proficient readers and spellers. The daily lesson cycle for MTA has 11 components: history of language, alphabet practice, reading decks, spelling decks, new learning, handwriting, reading practice, spelling practice, verbal expression, review, and listening. You are about to see an MTA lesson at a Richardson Elementary School. Pay close attention to the high student engagement and constant teacher interaction as she directly teaches the concepts and provides immediate feedback. Notice how students are incorporating the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic pathways to learning. 4 basic skills are developed during the alphabet practice: recognition, sequence, alphabetizing, and dictionary usage. During this portion of the lesson, basic concepts are introduced that support reading and spelling practice, such as left to right directionality, before and after, vowels and consonants, and initial, medial, and final positions of letters and words. In this lesson, the students are alphabetizing a word list. The students build proficiency in dictionary usage and then apply these skills beyond the classroom to everyday life. Knowing the alphabet and sequence can be handy while finding seats at a ball game or concert, finding contacts in your cell phone, and even locating books in the library. The ability to alphabetize is essential in many professions as well.
Is the first letter the same?
No.
No. So what does that tell you? The first letter will be our guide letter. Yeah. Do you see any words that have the same first letter?
Yes.
Yes. So in that case, if we come to 2 words that have the same first letter, we're going to slide them off to the side, and then we will have to look at what? The second letter. Very good.
D, 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 E, E, E,
Good. Take a look at those 2 words together.
EA becomes before ET.
Good job. EA comes before ET. Okay, we'll move on to our reading decks. Name the letter.
The reading deck includes 2 separate stacks of cards. The first set, the advanced reading deck, shows the letter or grapheme, and students must provide the correct letter name.
Keyword and sound.
The second set is the initial reading deck, where students say a key word followed by the sound connected to that letter or group of letters. Students review these decks daily in order to link the correct sound to the correct letter or letters with automaticity. During the spelling deck, the teacher provides the phoneme, or speech sound of the letter. Students echo the speech sound and then respond with the letter or letters that spell that sound in initial, medial, and final positions in words. After orally identifying the letter or letters that spell the speech sound, students write the letters. This reinforces letter name, shape, and sound while providing quick handwriting practice to help students develop automaticity. In this lesson, the students will write their letter responses on the large whiteboard. However, students can use folded paper, sand trays, shaving cream, or carpet squares to provide a variety of mediums for student practice. This daily structured practice in identifying the 44 individual speech sounds helps students to develop automatic responses to sounds for application to spelling words. The next portion of the lesson is called New Learning. This is when new letters and concepts for reading, spelling, and writing are introduced using multisensory techniques, which provide simultaneous auditory, visual, and kinesthetic or muscle instruction. Students move through a series of 8 linkages to connect letters to sounds. During the linkages, the teacher and students are actively engaged in multiple forms of movement. You'll notice that the students have writing frames around their pencils during this part of the lesson. The frames encourage large muscle movement and help students learn to appropriately grip a pencil for writing. Linkage 1. The teacher introduces the new sound, in this case, ch, and leads students to discover the letters that represent this sound. the teacher demonstrates the printed and cursive letter shapes by showing students how cursive handwriting overlays print. Linkage 2. When a new letter is introduced, students write the letter shape in the air while saying the letter's name and sound. We call this skywriting. It incorporates large muscle memory to help students make connections between letter sounds and their visual representation. Practice using large muscle movements solidifies gross motor memory, which supports the development of fine motor skills used for handwriting. After skywriting, students are seated to trace a model of the newly learned letter. In this case, trigraph TCH. Students trace the letter and produce a copy while looking at the model. Next, students write from letter memory. Finally, students write the letter with eyes closed to show students an example of muscle memory. Linkage 3. Students skywrite the letter again with tensed arm muscles to reinforce muscle memory. Linkage 4. Students write the letter from the teacher's dictation in their neatest handwriting. Linkage 5. Students skywrite the letter while saying the keyword and sound. This helps the students link the phoneme, or sound, to the grapheme, letter, by using gross motor skills to form strong muscle memory. Linkage 6. The teacher names the letter and the students give the keyword and sound. Linkage 7. This is the first spelling linkage. The teacher gives the sound and the student responds with the keyword and the letter's name. Linkage 8. This linkage helps students hear the sound and correctly identify the letter or letters that produce that sound. You'll notice the teacher is holding the green spelling card as she did earlier in the lesson during spelling deck practice at the board. This card will now be added to the spelling deck for daily practice. Application. After the linkages are completed, the teacher writes a few words on the board that contain the new letter or letters learned. She guides them through coding the words for reading. She asks students to notice the position of the letters within the words and how the letters are pronounced in that situation.
I'm going to say some words. You repeat the words after me, watching your mouth in the mirror. After we finish, tell me what sound you hear that is the same. Lime.
Lime.
5.
5.
Try.
Try.
Shy.
Shy.
Sly.
Sly.
What sound did you hear in all the words?
I.
Good. Let's take a look at some of these words. L-I-M-E. F-I-V-E. T-R-Y. S-H-Y. S-L-Y. Help me code these words. What do I need to do?
Consonant E.
Good. So my vowel will be, and I'll code it with a.
Micron.
Good. And mark my E.
Silent.
Good. And what about here?
Micron. Silent.
Good job. What about over here? What do you see in final position?
Y.
Y in final position is a vowel, and it takes the sound of I. When it's in the accented syllable, how do I code the Y?
With the
If it has a long sound.
micron.
Good job. So let's read these words.
Lime. 5. Try. Shy. Lie. Sly.
Good job. In these words, where do you hear I? Lime. 5.
Medial position.
Medial position. How's it spelled?
I.
Anything else that makes that I long? Consonant. Good job. What about over here? Where do you hear I in these words? Try, shy, sly.
Final position.
Final position. And when Y is in final position, it sounds like an I. How's that I sound spelled? What letter did we use?
Y.
You think of why we use Y at the end of words if it's taking the I sound?
Base words don't end with I.
English words do not end in I. Very good. So if we hear I in initial or medial.
After completing the linkages, the teacher adds the new letter and keyword and sound cards to the reading decks for daily review. Students will practice giving the keyword and sound for several days before using this letter and sound for reading and spelling practice later in the lesson cycle. During handwriting, students practice writing letters through different stages that help them develop automaticity. They begin by mastering individual cursive letter shapes. Then they learn to connect cursive letter shapes, write letters from dictation, and learn procedures for copying letters from the board. As they progress through these stages of handwriting development, they begin to apply these skills to writing on a baseline with proper proportion. Learning cursive handwriting is important for students with dyslexia because it naturally encourages left-to-right directionality. It reduces letter reversals, such as B and D, and eliminates confusion of where to begin forming the letters. All cursive letter shapes begin on the baseline. For this practice, the students are writing the letter Z on a baseline in cursive. During reading practice, students apply all that they have learned to reading tasks. Reading practice ties the reading decks to a reading experience. Students have the opportunity to decode monosyllabic words, divide longer words into syllables, and read words in context as they work through each kit. Students are taught to identify the situation of the vowel, also known as the 6 syllable types, and use appropriate sound-letter correspondence to decode the word. Reading practice also incorporates knowledge of prefixes, suffixes, Greek and Latin roots and stems, irregular words, and contractions. Each concept is practiced to mastery. Students must be able to accurately decode the words given with automaticity to move on to the next practice. Reading connected text allows students to practice reading with intonation and expression at an appropriate rate. As students move through the curriculum, the practice builds to incorporate reading short stories and finally to reading classroom literature. The students in the video are practicing dividing 2-syllable words. The students use the known syllable division patterns to divide the words and code the syllables.
And read the line to yourself and then out loud to me when you're ready.
Cannot discipline crazy.
Let's look at the second syllable.
During the spelling portion of the lesson, students practice spelling words by applying the sound-symbol relationships previously practiced throughout the instant spelling deck. Students practice spelling phonetic base words. Once they are secure with this skill, procedures for adding suffixes are taught and practiced as well. Students learn when to double the final consonant, drop silent E's, and the situations in which the spelling of the base word does not change. These 4th grade students are practicing a situational spelling rule. The teacher leads the students to discover when to double the medial consonant in words such as rabbit. You'll notice that the teacher says some words twice. She gives the running speech pronunciation first. This is how the word is commonly pronounced in conversational speech. Then she gives a spelling pronunciation, in which she exaggerates the vowel sounds.
Well, this word in real life or in running speech we'd say ballad. I'm going to say it with a spelling pronunciation. Ballad.
Ballad. B-A-L-L-A-D.
Good job. Name and right. Ballad. And read what you wrote.
Ballad.
Good job. In running speech we say ballad. It's a song. Number 3. This one also has a spelling pronunciation. In real life I would say ferret. I'm going to say fair-et. Say the word for me, sweetie. Fair-et.
F-E-R-R-E-T. the answers are right there.
Yikes! Now they're not. Taylor V. Oh, sorry, read your word.
Ferret.
Good. Are you correct?
Yes.
Yes. Good. Number 4. Hassock.
Hassock. Hassock.
And what did you write?
Hassock.
Are you correct?
Yes.
Your next word. Asset.
Asset. ASSET.
For verbal expression today, verbal expression is comprised of a variety of mini lessons that teach grammar concepts, comprehension skills, language development, and oral and written expression. Concepts are introduced in a systematic order. They begin at the concrete level and gradually move toward more abstract ideas. Simple grammar concepts such as identifying nouns and verbs are taught first. As students move through the curriculum, verbal expression lessons build towards more complex activities, such as reading comprehension and even written expression. This portion of the lesson is a wonderful opportunity for the teacher to incorporate technology to introduce and practice skills. The students in this class have been introduced to homophones, words that sound the same but are spelled differently and have different meanings. Knowing how to spell these words can be very difficult for students with dyslexia. The girls are creating note cards with homophone word pairs written on them and drawing a visual clue on each card to help them connect the meaning and the correct spelling to each word. The students can then keep this deck of cards in their regular classroom as a tool to help them with spelling and writing activities. At the conclusion of each lesson, a brief review of the day's new learning is given. Previously taught concepts are also reviewed daily. The teacher has a deck of concept cards that state all reading, spelling, coding, and definitions that have been introduced. She selects about 10 cards each day to review. This daily repetition of concepts helps build retention. During this time, prefixes, suffixes, roots and stems, and irregular words are also reviewed. The student's favorite part of the MTA lesson cycle is often the listening portion at the end. It is during this time that the teacher reads a story aloud to the students. As she reads, the teacher is able to incorporate reading comprehension skills, pausing to ask students questions in a more casual way. Reading material for this portion is chosen by the teacher and students and can be above their grade level or Lexile level. Teachers often choose high-interest novels, poetry, classic literature, and nonfiction books that are based on student interest. In this class, the students have chosen to read short chapters from Wayside School Collection. Today, the teacher will read Chapter 4 from Wayside School is Falling Down.
I'd be left with another sock of that color for tomorrow. And then if I wore that sock, I'd have to wear a sock that didn't match with it, and so on, for the rest of my life.
Now we'd like to show you a few brain images from fMRI scans. The first images show the brain of a person with dyslexia while reading prior to remediation. Reading tasks are mostly a left brain activity. These next images show the brain of a person with dyslexia while performing a reading task after participating in a remediation program like MTA. Notice how the brain has been retrained and the appropriate areas are responding. Our vision for all students with dyslexia in Richardson ISD is that they become successful readers with a passion for learning. Thank you for being a key part in the process of making every Richardson student a success.